Welcome to the deep dive.
Oh,
If you've been anywhere near the tech world this past week, you've definitely felt it, right? That buzz. This AI benchmark showdown, it felt less like a product launch and more like, I don't know, a playoff final?
absolutely. It's been intense.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, engineers rewriting tickets, product managers suddenly asking for new credits, and this whole Grok 4 versus GPT-4 thing, it shifted from just, curiosity to, well, it feels like an existential decision for some teams now.
It really does. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're leaning heavily on this fantastic article, Grok 4 versus GPT-4, the AI benchmark showdown. It just came out July 13th, written by Asma.
Yeah, okay.
And what's great is the author didn't just look at press releases. They spent, get this, 4 full days running their own experiments, really digging into research papers, and crucially pushing both models with these gritty, real-world tests you never see advertised.
So trying to sort the hype from the actual reality.
Exactly. Separating hype from reality, that's the core of it.
Okay, so our mission today for you listening is to cut through all that noise. We want to help you really understand the nuanced differences between Grok 4 and GPT-4. Figure out where each one really shines so you can actually apply this knowledge, stay ahead of the curve. Right, let's start at the beginning then. Let's unpack the spark. What exactly happened on July 9th, 2025? What set the tech world on fire?
It kicked off with an XAI live stream. They were flashing these slides, and for a lot of people watching, it felt like the first real public crack in OpenAI's dominance since 2023, really.
Okay, and what were these slides showing? The benchmark?
Yeah, the initial public benchmarks. XAI claimed Grok 4 basically clipped TaskGPT-4 on 4 out of 5 big academic sets. We're talking Humanities Last Exam, that's a broad knowledge test.
Right.
AirCAGI-2 for abstract reasoning. GPQA, which is advanced science questions, AN25, tough math problems, and a live coding benchmark. So 4 wins for Grok, 1 draw. That alone was enough to seriously shake things up.
Wow, okay. And when the author of the article tried to replicate those benchmarks, did they hold up?
Yeah, for the most part, they did confirm the results, although the author noted the gaps were often a bit narrower than maybe the launch slides implied.
Okay, a little nuance there.
Definitely. And a key nuance is that GPT-4 still really, really shines on those long symbolic proofs. It's got that depth. But on the flip side, Grok 4's coding performance, it just dominates, especially on complex stuff like Rust concurrency puzzles.
Oh, the tricky parallel stuff.
Exactly, and things like network protocol parsing. So it wasn't a clean sweep either way, more like specific strength emerging for each one.
And the article stressed this wasn't just abstract scores, right?
Yeah.
It had immediate ripple effects.
Oh, absolutely. The author pointed out, venture analysts were immediately refreshing valuations based on this. You had CTOs calling emergency roadmap meetings. Even freelancers were suddenly debating, okay, which subscription do I keep? It hit the ground running.
Real-world impacts, straight away. Okay, so let's move beyond those theoretical benchmarks then. The author set up this micro-simulation to test real-world reasoning. Tell us about that. It sounded fascinating.
Yeah, it was pretty clever. They basically built a miniature SaaS startup in a box, fully automated. It handled ordering inventory, pricing products, forecasting cash flow, even customer support, like a tiny self-running business.
Okay, so running a whole business.
Yeah.
How did Grok 4 do in that simulation?
Grok 4, as the author put it, ran cooler.
Yeah.
It was just more efficient operationally. Like, it would place bulk orders strategically when discounts peaked. It paused restocks before public holidays, anticipating the slowdown.
Smart.
Yeah, and it kept prices proactively before storage fees kicked in. The bottom line, its net margin ended up 18% higher than GPT-4's run.
18%, that's substantial.
Huge difference. And on the customer service side, it resolved tickets with, on average, 1 fewer exchange, so faster resolution too. It showed real strategic thinking at a system level.
Okay, that's impressive for Grok. What about GPT-4 in the same simulation? Where did it stand out?
Well, GPT-4 wasn't quite as aggressive on the cost-cutting side, but it kept a much tighter, more consistent narrative tone in the support replies.
Ah, the brand voice.
Exactly, which, can be absolutely critical for brand trust and consistency. It also did something Grok missed completely. It flagged potential legal landmines in some policy updates.
Ooh, important.
Very. And there was this really telling instance where GPT-4 managed to trace a subtle data race buried deep in the analytics pipeline. Grok just ignored it, even when prompted multiple times. GPT-4 found it.
Interesting. So if you're listening and trying to decide which model fits for these kinds of reasoning tasks, what's the main takeaway from this simulation?
It kind of boils down to this. If you need agents focused purely on revenue or complex system-level planning, Grok seems to have the edge right now with its proactive optimization. But if you're dealing with compliance-sensitive text or you need that really nuanced, consistent narrative tone, GPT-4 still holds a kind of defensive charm.
Right. Choose the tool for the specific job.
Precisely. They both have unique strengths in reasoning, just different kinds.
Okay, let's shift gears to coding. I know a lot of our listeners are developers, and this is probably top of mind. How did the model stack up in real-world coding tests under pressure?
Right, and this was a serious test. The author ran a suite of 34 tickets across Python, Go, TypeScript, everything from tiny fixes to really complex rewrites, and they did it in these simulated pair programming loops using both APIs.
Okay, thorough. What were the headline results? Speed, success rate.
Well, looking at ticket closure rates and latency, Grok 4 definitely came out faster and more successful on that first pass. It closed 27 out of the 34 tickets. Median latency was about 8.4 seconds per request.
And GPT-4?
GPT-4 closed 24 tickets, so slightly fewer, and the median latency was higher at 11.9 seconds.
Okay, so on the surface, a clear win for Grok in terms of speed and initial success. You mentioned trade-offs earlier. Did that apply here, especially on the harder coding tasks?
Absolutely. It became really clear on the two toughest tickets. One was a cyclic dependency in a Nest.js microservice.
Ah, yes, the circular dependency nightmare.
Exactly that. And the other was a complex type ORM migration. In both cases, Grok produced working code faster, but it often left behind things like stray console logs or maybe a forgotten environment variable, little messy bits.
Right, functional but maybe not clean.
Pretty much. GPT-4, its first answer on those tough ones might have failed the tests initially, but its follow-up patch, it solved the problem cleanly, and this is important. It documented the change properly.
Speed versus polish. That classic trade-off again.
It really is.
Can you give us that Rust hotfix example? That sounded specific.
Yeah, sure. So there was this Rust data race hotfix, fixing a tricky bug in concurrent code. Grok nailed it on the first pass, flagged the deadlock, produced compiling code, and even explained why a write lock plus a scope guard mattered.
So it understood the underlying concepts.
Deeply, yeah. A scope guard, for context, is like a safety net ensuring resources get released correctly. GPT-4, it reasoned about the lock ordering okay, but it forgot to escalate the guard. The fix wasn't actually complete or safe. So for back-end engineers dealing with that kind of stuff, that single ticket really showed Grok's raw coding power.
Okay, so if you're a developer listening right now, based on these tests, what practical strategy did the author end up suggesting?
Well, the author actually landed on what they called a hybrid strategy, which I thought was pretty smart. Basically, use Grok for that inner loop velocity, getting that first draft, that working code super fast.
Something working quickly.
Right. But then run a final safety and polish pass through GPT-4 before merging the code.
Ah, okay. So Grok is the rapid prototyper, GPT is the final architect, ensuring quality and documentation.
Kind of, yeah. A powerful combination if you can manage it.
Fascinating. Okay, let's pivot completely from the, rigid logic of code to something much more fluid. Storytelling, creative writing. The author had this really specific creative prompt, right? About teaching recursion to kids without using the word recursion.
Yes, this was a brilliant test, I thought. The prompt was, write a 500-word bedtime story that teaches 8-year-olds the idea of recursive algorithms without ever mentioning the term recursion.
Okay, how did they do?
Very differently. GPT-4 delivered this really lyrical, beautiful tale about dwarfs climbing nested crystal caverns, smaller versions inside larger ones. And the feedback was that parents and teachers generally preferred it for its gentle cadence, its smooth narrative flow.
Sounds lovely. And Grok?
Grok went a completely different route. It produced this clever time loop narrative. It featured a clock that builds smaller clocks inside itself, much more conceptual.
A time loop with clocks inside clocks. Okay. And what did the actual 8-year-olds think? Who's the target audience?
Well, this is the kicker. The kids, apparently, asked for Grok's looping clock story 2 nights in a row.
No way. They preferred the weirder one.
Seems like it. And the author felt this really highlighted an emerging pattern. GPT leads when the tone needs those established rhythms, that traditional beauty. But Grok seems to trigger curiosity, maybe more engagement, with structures that are a bit edgier, more imaginative, unexpected.
That's really interesting. Kids wanting the more complex concept. Did the author test other creative writing, like brand storytelling?
They did. They used a fictional vegan chocolate brand, Forest Echo.
Okay.
GPT-4 wrote this lyrical piece about cacao trees humming lullabies. Blind readers scored it a 9 out of 10. Very evocative, emotional. Grok wrote this imaginative story about a forest court meeting where squirrels are judging the chocolate's flavor. It scored a 7.5 out of 10.
Still good, but different, more quirky.
Exactly. Quirky, imaginative. Again, it reinforced that idea. GPT for the established, lyrical, maybe emotionally resonant tone. Grok for the more inventive, perhaps surprising angle.
So for anyone listening who's involved in content creation, maybe marketing, maybe education, what's the practical lesson here?
I think it's really about knowing your audience and the specific feeling you want to evoke. If you need that comforting rhythm, that strong emotional connection, GPT seems like the safer bet right now. But if you want to spark curiosity, maybe surprise people, try something a bit different structurally, Grok might be your tool. It's about matching the style to the goal.
Comfort versus curiosity.
Duh.
Got it. Okay, let's talk practicalities now.
Yeah.
The stuff that hits the budget, hidden
Yeah.
costs, limitations, especially when you're dealing with huge amounts of information. Context windows, token economics.
Yeah, this is super critical, especially for enterprise use cases. Context window, how much info the AI can juggle at once. So OpenAI doubled GPT-4's context to 128,000 tokens in the spring update, but then apparently had to quietly throttle the throughput because, well, it gets expensive to run.
Ah, the cost factor.
Right. Grok's public tier also offers 128K tokens. But, and this is interesting, the author found its API actually leaks a hidden 256K token envelope if you toggle some experimental flags.
Whoa, double the context potentially.
Potentially, yeah. And they stress tested this. They fed both models the entire Postgres database manual plus around 80,000 lines of code. Massive input.
Okay, how do they handle it?
Grok stayed coherent, meaning its output made sense, all the way up to token 243,000. GPT-4 started hallucinating, basically making stuff up like fake links after only 118,000 tokens.
That is a huge difference in effective context length.
Massive, especially if you're trying to analyze, say, large legal documents or entire code bases.
So what does that mean for the actual costs, the invoice math, when you deploy these at scale?
Right, because it's not just about the sticker price per token. For these big enterprise workflows, legal teams embedding huge policy docs, engineering analyzing massive code bases, context isn't just length, it's dollars saved. OpenAI might charge less per input token on paper, but if it loses accuracy earlier, like in that test...
You have to run it again, maybe multiple times.
Exactly, which triggers retries and drives up the total spend. Grok might charge more per token, but if it gets the job done coherently in one shot...
It can end up being cheaper overall for complex tasks.
Precisely. The author ran a month-long test auditing medical device regulations. Grok ended up saving 17% on the total spend compared to GPT-4, even with its higher per token cost.
17% savings.
Okay. And another specific example. Analyzing GDPR text plus an engineering spec about 121K tokens total. GPT-4's first run cost $8.65, but it needed 2 follow-ups to get everything right, totaling $12.30. Grok cost $11.92, but delivered coherently in one go.
So for you listening, especially if you're in an enterprise setting dealing with large documents or code, that context window isn't just a spec sheet number. It directly impacts operational efficiency and your bottom line.
Absolutely. It's a core economic differentiator for those kinds of large-scale jobs.
Okay, what about other key differences? Let's talk pure speed, prompt to response time, and this philosophy clash the article mentioned between XAI and OpenAI.
Speed first. Yeah, Grok generally seems to have a noticeable advantage in prompt to response time. This is really important for things like agent workflows, where you have lots of back and forth calls happening quickly.
Right, latency matters there.
Hugely. So for a complex math proof, Grok was 33% faster. For that Rux hotfix we talked about, 41% faster. Summarizing a big 128K document, Grok was 39% faster.
Consistently faster then.
Mostly. The one exception the author noted was actually that brand storytelling task we discussed earlier. Grok was slightly slower there, about 9% slower.
Interesting. Okay, now this philosophy clash. How does that actually play out in how the models behave?
It's actually quite profound, and you see it in their refusals and their outputs on sensitive topics. OpenAI tends to prune risk using these quite tight alignment layers. So you might get what feels like a paternal refusal for borderline content. It decides what's safe and might just say no or heavily filter the response.
Okay, more cautious.
Yeah. XAI, on the other hand, seems to shift more of that responsibility onto the user, relying on explicit audit logs and user discretion. It acts more like a powerful neutral tool that expects you to manage the output's implications.
Can you give an example?
Sure. The author asked both to summarize a controversial climate report. GPT-4 started with a mild disclaimer, kind of softened the language, offered one factual critique. very measured, Grok. It gave a bulleted list of 5 claimed errors in the report, cited 3 sources for those claims, and flat out labeled one politician's quote as statistically unfounded.
Wow, much more blunt.
Incredibly blunt, almost lawyerly.
Right.
Both passed factual checks, mind you, but the tone and approach were night and day. The author concluded it's as much about your organization's risk appetite as it is about raw AI intelligence. Do you want the AI to be cautious for you, or do you want the raw info and manage the risk yourself?
That's a really clear distinction. What about outright forbidden prompts? Did the philosophy show there too?
It did. Both refused a prompt designed to be forbidden, as you'd expect. But GPT-4's refusal felt, again, kind of paternal. I cannot fulfill that request for safety reasons. Grok's felt more legalistic. This request violates policy and has been logged. And crucially, Grok apparently logged way more metadata about the refusal for potential policy review.
Transparency versus potential privacy concerns there.
Exactly. Regulators might like Grok's approach. Privacy teams might not so much. It's a trade-off based on your priorities.
Okay, very important point. What about vision? Multimodal capabilities are huge now.
Yeah, critical point. Vision is still firmly GPT territory right now. If you need the AI to create SVGs, lay out flowcharts, sketch simple floor plans, stuff designers, architects, many others need Mini too. GPT-4 is your only option between these two.
Grok doesn't have vision yet.
Not publicly released. XAI says its vision module is coming. Maybe in the autumn, but for now. If you need eyes, you need GPT.
Good to know. Okay, one last test the author mentioned was this human ear test focusing on voice latency, the speed of spoken response.
Right. This was subtle, but potentially very impactful. They timed themselves asking both models a puzzle question via a smartwatch's voice interface. Grok's spoken answer came back in 0.95 seconds.
Under a second, pretty fast.
Yeah. GPT-4's answer took 1.9 seconds.
Okay, almost 2 seconds. Doesn't sound like much, but...
Yeah, but when you're waiting for that answer, maybe directions while you're walking, or a quick fact, that extra second can feel like an eternity.
Yeah, I can see that conversational lag.
Exactly. And the author noted that this seemingly tiny detail is already causing ripples. Fitness device makers, for example, are apparently discussing swapping their default voice assistants because of that perceived lag. It shows how these benchmark differences jump straight into product roadmap decisions.
Wow. Okay, so we've covered benchmarks, reasoning, coding, creativity, cost, speed, philosophy, vision, even voice latency. Let's try to bring it all together for everyone listening. What does this all mean? Where does each model truly shine? And what are the big, actionable lessons for teams navigating this?
Okay, let's summarize the strengths as they seem to stand now, based on this deep dive. Grok 4 looks like the winner for developers. Faster hotfixes, potentially deeper static code analysis, that larger effective context window is huge, and more aggressive proactive planning and system tasks. So complex code, huge policy docs, real-time control loops, think Grok.
Okay, Grok for the heavy-duty, system-level, code-intensive stuff.
Right. GPT-4, on the other hand, still shines for smoother, more lyrical narrative writing. Its safety guardrails are generally perceived as stronger or at least more cautious. And critically, it has those multimodal and SVG capabilities that Grok lacks currently. So if you need polished copy, marketing materials, visual diagrams, posters, GPT is likely still your best bet.
Lyrical copy, safety, and eyes. Got it. Can you give some quick industry-specific examples, maybe?
Sure, let's try a few based on the article's findings. Finance. Grok might be preferred for compute-heavy stuff like option pricing Monte Carlo simulations because it's faster. But GPT might be better for writing those clear, compliant, audit-ready post-mortem reports.
Speed versus compliance again.
Exactly. Healthcare. Narrative clarity is paramount for patient records, diagnoses. GPT-4's steadier tone and, frankly, better handling of subtle medical wording seems to win out here for now. Grok apparently lags a bit on that nuance. Gaming. Studios prototyping character arcs or rich lore might lean on GPT's creative writing, but for generating, say, procedural quest logic efficiently, Grok's processing power might be better.
Makes sense.
And robotics. Those real-time control loops just crave low latency. Grok's speed advantage there is a big deal, as GPT's slight lag could potentially break the control loop.
Okay, those are really helpful concrete examples. So, wrapping it up for teams trying to make decisions now, what's the actionable strategy?
Well, 3 key things emerged from the author's conclusions. 1, seriously consider running mixed stacks. Don't feel you have to choose just one. Maybe use Grok to draft a complex plan or piece of code, then pipe that result into GPT-4 for tone refinement, safety checks, or documentation. Get the best of both.
Use their strengths together.
Exactly. 2, benchmark your own specific tasks. Public numbers are a starting point, but those weird edge cases unique to your workflow, that's what decides real-world success and user happiness. Test it yourself.
Don't rely solely on headlines.
Definitely not. And 3, watch the roadmap like a hawk. Things are moving so fast. GPT-5 could leapfrog Grok soon. Grok's multimodal update could totally change the vision equation, so keep your budgets flexible, stay adaptable, be ready to pivot.
Sound advice. It really is incredible how dynamic this race is. As you said, today's winner only holds that belt until the next model update, the next architectural tweak, the next big GPU delivery even.
That's exactly right. And the bottom line is Grok 4 versus GPT-4. It's not just marketing anymore. It's a fundamental strategic question every single tech leader needs to be grappling with right now. The smartest approach seems to be keep both tools in your toolbox, measure everything obsessively for your specific use cases, and let your own data, not just opinions, guide your decisions.
Measure everything, let data bury opinion. I like that. Well, the race certainly continues. For you listening, grab the popcorn, sure, but also open your IDE, open your notebooks, run your own experiments. Because the real truth, the one that matters for you, is probably hiding in your own logs, not in a headline. And when you find it, share this story.